What's good, Denver? It's Shelly Martinez, your host of Chopping It Up with Shelly at Hollywood Barbershop.
This is the barbershop. Barbershop. This is the barbershop. The place where a black man means so.
What's good, Denver? Chopping It with Shelly over here at Hollywood's Barbershop. I'm Shelly with Chopping It with Shelly, and
this is your boy Jesse Strada, aka DJ Jess. We are here with the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Eric Trujillo from New Live Streams. A Colorado native, like you said, we don't really see those a lot. So, just talking a little bit, Eric, take us from the beginning, man. I know you have a lot of family of artists and all that good stuff. Born and raised here in Colorado. How did it all start, man?
Well, I was born here in Denver. I grew up in the West Side off of First and Fox, and I had a family of musicians and artists. It was the West Side back in the '70s and the early '80s was a really tight community, and so I had an uncle who was a brilliant artist. Some of my aunts, all my cousins, they were all doing graffiti, paint, murals, all kinds of things in the West Side. And my uncle had a band. He still is a great musician. He sang, played the saxophone. His name's Rudy Medina. And so,
what's the band's name?
Back in the day, if you're old school enough, you'll know a band called Brick City.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, they did all the newest Chicano cover band music. War, Azteca, El Chicano, all that stuff. When it was all new and fresh, Santana. And so I was always around my uncle playing music, hearing that happening. My dad even played guitar for a quick minute, but my big influences actually just came from the West Side, the sounds, the art, the visual art, at that time. And my grandmother's house was on First and Fox, so that was kind of the center of all of our family. We all met there, and the cousins got together, and when on the weekends and during the summers, we all would walk down Santa Fe. At that time, Santa Fe was, still a really hit place, and we'd go to get a haircut at Jig's Barbershop. Tribute, shout out to old school Jig's Barbershop. That was where everybody in the West Side went,
Mm-hmm.
And so we got there, your haircut up there, and then we would go watch matinee movies at the Atzalan Theater. They were always showing like Godzilla or some fun movies, and when we do breakdancing down there at those days when it was first coming out.
Wow!
So I have good memories of the West Side and Santa Fe, that whole area. That was a tight community, and
it really was. So, and just talking about those old groups, Denver had a very hip music scene back in the day. Obviously I wasn't there, but I should have been there. Me and my wife, we were born in the wrong era.
Mm-hmm.
We always say that we were wrong. But you talk about, Brick City and Nubia and all those older bands, Azteca with the Escobedo brothers and all that.
Yeah.
I know my music area.
Yeah, the De Leon brothers were big time in town too.
Yeah, De Leon brothers, and Vic and Phil and all them,
People forget, that Denver was a very strong community, a very major hub for Chicano, Mexican American first generation Chicano families, and people moving off the farms and coming into the city, and we all moved into neighborhoods like the North Side and the West Side and Swansea, and it was a major hub for Chicano rights activism and everything too. So it was a blessing to be in the West Side. And later, as I got older, my parents bought a home in a place called Athmar Park, a little out by Ruby Hill. So it was kind of a um, uh, I spent my time between my grandparents' house and in the west side in Athmar Park. So
Got a lot of
great
family
memory.
members who went to Athmar Lounge, man. Not Athmar Park, but
Very
Athmar
well, the
Lounge.
lounge, yeah, man, yep.
For those of you who don't know, Eric is
Luthier, yeah,
Luthier.
yeah.
Okay, Google said Luthier, so I was saying it wrong this whole time. Because I was like, is it Luthier? Is it Luthier? Shelly didn't know.
It's okay.
I thought it was
It's a weird
luchador.
word. Yeah, yeah.
Let everyone know what that is and how you came about and getting into that. It's not a career; it's really an art, right?
Yeah, I'm one of the few that has been able to make a great career out of being a luthier. Luthier is a European word that they use for people who make musical instruments and do restoration work, things like that. Um, man, it's a wild story how I got to the point of becoming a luthier. But growing up, I had a it turned out I had a knack for music. I followed in my uncle's footsteps. I played saxophone, and I was really good at it. And through high school, and got scholarship offers to go to music school. So I
What
spent.
music
I
school
had.
did you go to?
I went to Berklee School of Music in Boston for a short moment. It was more of an experiment than anything, and then ended up going to Metro State at the time, Metro College. That's how I met my wife. She was a violinist, and I played another instrument, a weird instrument. I was always curious with musical instruments, so I learned this instrument called the bassoon, and ended up at Metro playing in the orchestra down there and playing saxophone in the music department at Metro State. I knew I wanted to go to some sort of community college, local college, and just keep learning. You have to learn and grow, and it was a great place for me being close to my mom. My mom at the time was really sick, and so I had a really amazing career as a Latin musician, playing jazz, Latin music, playing saxophone, Latin percussion, congas. I gave up the bassoon. It was too particular of an instrument and style for me.
Not a
But
lot of recordings or people call for
yeah, it's
bassoon,
it's
right?
really a classical instrument, and that's not where my heart was. So I followed my heart with the saxophone, and eventually, became a Latin music educator and performer. So I play in Latin bands, Latin jazz, in regular jazz ensembles, mambo bands like the older throwback style from the 50s and 60s. Me and some buddies back in the day put together some bands and played some of that old school mambo salsa stuff. And so the great thing about being a musician is that you can always be a musician. Sometimes athletics and other things, hard hard jobs, labor jobs, that you can't keep up with them all your life. But with music, it's always a gift that keeps giving even as you get older. And about 25 years ago, 22 years ago, I found myself walking into an old music store that I used to frequent to buy accessories for my instruments. And I was offered a job to go work there. It was called Colasty Music. It's on South Broadway. It's still there at 1900 South Broadway. Um, Started there helping as in general sales, instruments, and things like that. It was a good fit for me. And one thing led to another, and the next thing, I found myself having an opportunity to go back and learn how to work on musical instruments. I was always a curious kid, person, young adult. I always like fixing things, repairing things, and so sometimes God just opens these doors, man, and you just you have sometimes have to be brave enough to do something that maybe you were never raised around or grew up with, or people knew people that did it. But I just thought it was something interesting, so I started learning how to do luthier work at Classy Music, and ended up being good at it. And after many years there at the Classy shop, and they were very good to me, very patient. And 14 years ago, my wife and I decided it was time to open up our own shop, Maybe the Strings. And it was a crazy time economically. My kids were starting school, and we all lived up on the north side, and just in Westminster there, the south side of Westminster. So I had to make a tough choice to continue where I was at. It was a hard commute, or we decided we were going to open up our own shop. So that's how that happened. And man, here I am all of a sudden with this shop making instruments, restoring violins, and for everybody in our community, from the schools to the all the great mariachi groups that come through. Sol de Mi Tierra, it's one of the most famous mariachi groups we've ever had here in Colorado, and the classical musicians and the orchestras and the symphony orchestra, jazz musicians, recording artists. So I've over the years developed a really amazing clientele. A lot of friendships, and we cater now to just people from all over the world. We have uh, people from all over the country come for my services and my repair work, and so that's where we're at to this point. We've just recently, myself and another first generation. I'm not first generation, but my partner Manny Alvarez. He's a luthier in New York City. He worked for another shop similar to the one I learned I learned the trade in, called Colstein Music in New York. And his father's from I believe it's from Central America.
Mm-hmm.
His mother and father, and so he worked his way up from a kid sweeping floors at Colstein Music to buying the company and running it 3 years ago. It's a multi-million-dollar big time fine violin shop in New York City. It's one of the great violin shops in the world. And last fall, him and I and my wife and his family, we decided to start a collective partnership where I would work with Manny and his new business, the Colstein company, which has been around for 80 years. So we've developed a great partnership and a network where we take care of, fine musicians, outstanding musicians from all over the world.
Wow.
Now,
So
with the way music's made today, you have your beat machines, you have your sound machines, everything's on
yeah,
computer. Are strings in high demand still?
yeah, it's still valid. Music evolves. Music is evolving and it's spreading, but there's always people who appreciate picking up something tangible like a violin or a saxophone or a conga drum.
And people don't
And
realize the depth strings put into music. Like you see a lot of these artists' albums and songs being re-recorded with like the Philharmonic
right,
Orchestra, Elvis,
right,
the Beach Boys, the Beatles, all them stuff, and you hear the song differently than the first time because of all
the
the
strings.
strings and everything. And
Yeah,
it's beautiful. I mean, same with brass music. Like we always say we love a good band with brass from Tower of Power
yeah,
to
yeah,
Azteca or even the local bands. As long as they got some good horns and stuff,
yeah.
that music's prime, man.
Yeah, musical instruments are paintbrushes, and with the right kind of the people who have an ear and a vision for the way you do music, just like art, just like the visual arts.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to use those different palettes of different instruments and arrange these beautiful arrangements, and all these string players, everybody they sample them. Now a lot of contemporary artists in every genre, from any genre you can imagine, they use string instruments, and some of them are sampled, but you still need the string instruments to sample to, if you're going to do digital
Right.
loops and things like that. So it's still very valid, and the business and the industry as a whole is still very, very good. And the important thing about learning a musical instrument is the benefits, the educational benefits, the the things that music does for the brain, for making your mental acuity, your sharpness. It helps you with math. You're learning things like physics, mathematics, uh, acoustics. Playing an instrument's a complex thing. You have to use your limbs, your thinking, and your counting, and you're also processing this foreign kind of language of music for people that learn how to read music, and all putting it together and creating a performance out of it. It's a one of the reasons I'm a huge advocate of music education is because the kids that play musical instruments, they really thrive academically too. They teach you these amazing skills with math and reading, your cognitive abilities, and that's something that's really important in our communities, especially our lower income communities, our Hispanic communities, people of color. Period. In any, I don't think that there isn't any race or age that doesn't benefit from the gift of music, especially as we get older too. It's important to learn. There are studies that show the rates of Alzheimer and dementia decline with musicians that have spent their lives learning music. It makes your brain fire in ways. It's really important for our people to know. We have to keep exposing our people to creative arts and music and visual arts, and picking up instruments is good for us. Um, and that's just my little bubble of my world that I work with in the education and performance and
So you agree
building.
that music should be in schools, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're always advocate for music in the schools and in education and privately funded programs. I work with an amazing group called the Latino Cultural Arts Center now. They're a major Denver hub for fine visual arts, and we've also now expanded. I'm working with them in developing a music curriculum. So we have a group called the Mambo Orchestra now. So in LCAC, I direct an ensemble where we bring in kids that play string instruments and other Latin percussion, rhythm section instruments, and we learn the music of their history and their community, their people. We learn Latin music, Mexican music, Chicano cruise, all kinds of stuff. And so these kids get an experience, and they hear the music that they grew up with. Their parents may have played, or their uncles or aunts. And there's a lot of education there for classical music and popular music, but we also have to know what some of our roots are. And um, so that's what we're doing at the Latino Cultural Arts Center. And then my shop, Mi Vida Strings, of course, we help sponsor, and we become a partnership. We do things together to make that community stronger, and the people that are interested in supporting us, and the kids and adults too that want to participate. So it's a busy time with music, and whether it's our music shop and building instruments, that's just one facet of what I do is I build fine musical instruments, and I'm lucky to sell them. And uh, my these violins and cellos and basses that I make. You when you make these instruments and they're in the hands of the people that love them, they take care of them. You get to go to concerts and see the instruments that you spent all this blood and sweat and tears in being played on a major stage, and the lifespan of these instruments can be hundreds of years. I work on some of these instruments in these restorations, and you open them up and you realize that they're 2, 3, 400 years old.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a wild time. I'm blessed to do what I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have your children taken up playing, or do they have an interest in
Yeah.
creating?
Yeah, we're all musicians.
Oh, that's neat.
My wife was she's a violinist. She still is. It's funny. I build violins and work on them, but I don't play them. I'm just good at the hands-on part of doing that. And then but my wife plays, and all of our kids, when they grew up, my wife and I saw the benefit we got from music. So we made sure that our kids started on playing violins, and then we've allowed them to grow into other. That was just a leaping off point. Get them into something. I mean, get them a recorder in class, whatever it is, to get them interested, and then let them find their thing in music. And so my kids ended up. My oldest daughter, plays bass and violin. She still plays a little bit of violin. And then my middle son plays everything: piano,
Oh, wow.
vibraphone, and he's 16 years old, and he's getting ready to do his own debut concert as a major Latin jazz artist in
Wow.
town. He grew up with a really talented community of musicians that have taken embraced him and his skills, and some fine players and educators in town. And
What's his name?
his name's Daniel
Gotta give him some
Trujillo.
love, man. Show him some
Yeah,
love,
yeah,
man.
he's the next generation. We have to make sure that at some point in our lives we start teaching and making sure that we know that we're leaving it to somebody else with the art and our music and our culture, the skills, showing kids these different things outside of the bubbles that they may be growing up in. Sometimes it's 2 or 3, 4 blocks. It's all they ever know, and what they're learning in school, and we have to show them there's this huge life out there. People are always blown away. Before I move on to that, my youngest daughter, of course, Lene, she's 13, and she's playing trumpet a little bit, and she just started to learn how to play upright bass. Big upright bass. And bass players, man, they play you hear anything in music, there's always bass. So she's gonna be all right too. So she's getting her hands on that, and she's learning how to play classical bass, and I'm sure she'll even you need that classical foundation, and then it spreads into jazz, Latin music, everything, but you have to have some foundation. So anyway, that was to make sure I didn't forget my daughter.
Of course.
But but yeah, it's important to make sure our communities and our people in our culture continue to know the importance of music and art. Is so important, man. Because if I can encourage other kids to young adults to keep the flame going, to pursue these kinds of passions.
I will say this. I was brought up with my grandpa playing the violin in the family. I mean, that was at every occasion that we had. Anytime I went to visit him, anytime he was around, he always bring it with him. He either had the guitar or the violin, and it just brought so much joy to our family. And that's what drew me to you. I was like, I have to get this guy on my show because
it just. You bring a violin so she can sing.
I'm a mariachi singer.
You sing? Do you really?
I can sing. Yeah.
Oh wow, yes, that's great, man.
But I mean, even when he passed, I mean, that was the most sought after thing in the family was who's going to get the violin, who's going to get the guitar. So I mean,
and this is those memories that are attached with it.
It is, but it's just like priceless. You know what I mean? And so I can see how you say, some of these things are 200, 300 years old and just so valuable. Like you can't even put a money price on it.
Your story's not any different. One of the things that happens in my store a lot is people bring in these old instruments that were left behind by their parents or their grandparents, and they have these important memories. And sometimes those memories are so valuable to these people, and it inspires you to keep it going, or try to encourage the kids to play. I see a lot. It's a major part of my business is people bringing their family heirloom instruments to. Sometimes they're really nice and expensive, and sometimes they're not. It doesn't matter to me. My job is just to restore that and make it a playable instrument that they can hear. These people, I've seen people bring in instruments and they get them restored, and I get them playing again, and they come to pick them up with their families, and somebody will play it, or my wife will sometimes be there and play it for them, or I can play a little bit, and you just see these people just start tearing up because it just brings back all these memories. I hope that's the gift that we leave our kids that matters, and
I mean, it creates unity, and all that stuff. So it's really neat.
It's a great point. May not speak the same language, but music is always the great glue that brings people all over the world together. It's so important that we continue to support music education, and there's here in Denver, there's a lot of strong programs that are trying to stay alive and trying to continue to grow. The Latino Cultural Arts Center, the Chicano Humanities and Arts Council, CHOC. Now they used to be on Santa Fe. The Colorado Youth Mariachi Program. At Mi Vida Strings, we're making some big effort to continue to bring awareness.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are being schooled by the one and only Mr. Eric Trujillo from Mi Vida Strings. Eric, let them know where the shop is located and where they can find you.
Yeah, my shop is called Mi Vida Strings. It's on 3702 West 72nd Avenue. It's a block west of Lowell on 72nd Avenue.
Well, you've done a great job so far, and we just want to thank you for coming in and being so inspirational. I've interviewed a lot of people from Evelyn Champagne King to Larry Dunn from Earth, Wind and Fire.
Oh yeah.
To an up and coming artist Fee from California, but this has been very inspirational. I want to thank Shally for bringing me back out as well. I kind of been out of the view for a while, but this is why, like you said, why we do what we do, because it's great for people to hear these stories and for people to know more about their culture and just bringing the new in with the old.
Thank you guys for having the vision to do these things. These we wonder sometimes if they matter, if they're making a difference, and they are. If there's one or two kids that hear, or people that hear something that you're in your videos and your podcasts and your whatever you're doing, it matters, man. It's valid, and you make a contribution, and it's important that you guys are looking at the greater picture too. And so I'm happy to come and have this new experience with you guys. I didn't I didn't know, I had never heard of it before, you know, and
Aw.
I was so excited to, you know, because you get in your bubbles where you know your people
Mhm.
and you know your thing, and then I was like, wait, who are these people? You know, so I get excited about coming and talking to new people and meeting new faces and seeing some young people that are interested in hearing stories. That's the other thing we got to keep teaching these kids to sit and be patient and talk to people.
Mhm.
Get off those
Absolutely.
phones, man. Get off
Yeah,
those phones
just
and listen.
spend time
And
talking.
not only listen to respond, but listen to understand.
Yeah,
That's the
Mhm.
biggest thing, you know.
yeah, yeah. You
So
will be all
Yeah.
right,
once
man.
again, let them know where they can find you
Mhm.
and your shop. Eric.
Yeah, I'm Eric Trujillo. They call me Big Brown. Uh, I have a shop called Mi Vida Strings. I make fine violins, cellos, and basses in my shop up in Westminster at 3702 West 72nd Avenue. I also teach a Latin music education program at the Latino Culture Arts Center, the Mambo Orchestra, and the Chicano Rock Band. And I also cruise with the baddest bomb club, the Pachuco Card Club in Denver.
Hey.
Uh, Thank you guys so much for having me. I
Oh, it's been a
And the
appreciate it.
best
pleasure.
part about this is Eric is giving us free violins, so we're gonna learn them.
Everybody gets a violin. You get a violin. You get a violin. No, just
Everybody
kidding.
in the
Air violins. You come to my shop, I'll give you an air violin.
If you comment Mi Vida Loco, not string, you get a free violin.
Oh, you want one of those kind of violins? Okay.
This has been great.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for
so much.
coming and
Hang
see
out
us.
for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
Well,
for
Denver,
sure.
again, another one of Denver's best here at Hollywood's Barbershop. We're chopping up with Shelly, DJ Jess, and Eric Trujillo once again. Appreciate it. Denver, we'll see you next time.
See you later.